Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Lefebvre, and today I'm going to show you how to draw and paint leaves and petals on flowers that are flipped, so you get a different perspective and they don't look as flat and structured. So let's jump in and get started. Before we jump into today's video, I just wanted to make an announcement that I am going to be teaching my second watercolor retreat with Utrecht, but this time in Spain, and it's happening at the end of this year from September 15th to the 22nd. Join me for a week-long amazing retreat as we stay at a serene 5-acre private estate surrounded by vibrant gardens and desert flora, complete with a refreshing pool and peaceful terraces for relaxation. And not to mention a week full of watercolor. This retreat is going to be geared to all skill levels, so if you're a beginner, don't worry. I'm going to be helping you with the absolute basics, but if you've been painting for a few years, we're going to be developing your style and working on those pesky struggles you might be having with watercolor. The retreat also includes amazing day trips as well as a private chef that is going to be absolutely incredible. So if you're interested, check out the link for more details, photos, and there's only 16 spots available. So if you're interested, click the link for all the details, more photos. It's going to be absolutely incredible and I hope you can join me. But for now, let's jump into our tutorial. Okay friends, so today we're going to be talking about perspective with leaves and flower petals in regards to when they have movement and folds and curves and how to depict that in your drawings. So what I actually did here is I cut out some shapes because I think it's always really great to have something to look at. If you actually have a real flower with you, that would be even better. But I just cut out a simple leaf shape, a longer leaf shape to them, and then like a petal shape, because this is a really great way to show you where shadows would be and how to draw them. So I'm going to start with one of the longer leaf shapes here. And we're going to start with kind of that curved when a long leaf has this fold over top like this. So this is what I want you to look at. Okay, so look at the shape here. We have this long leaf that if it was straight, it would just be kind of all one value. But the minute you curve it, you have this instant shadow right underneath that curve. And showing that in your drawings is really going to create a lot of depth and interest rather than just having one flat kind of shape. So looking at it, it's kind of hard to look at it and draw. But what I want you to do is you're going to draw this leaf shape. You're going to go up, and then you're just going to come immediately down. You're going to start like that, okay? Now this is a little bit curved because I flattened this. It should be a bit more curved. But then when you're drawing this, I want you to picture this top fold kind of coming down. You're going to go straight across like this. So that's this part, right? And then you're going to meet it down at the point here. Boop. Okay, and that is the top part folding over. Then the same thickness as it is here, you're going to go right underneath and you're just going to come right down like that. Okay, and you can see the shape, it's already giving a little bit of movement, and you can see that it is a curved petal or leaf, but to really make it stand out is the shading. So again, looking at where the shadows would be, it would be right underneath is where you would do most of your shading, creating those shadows, which is really going to make it pop. Okay, so that's one way you can do it. Take your paper and do it another way. If you say twist it this way, it is completely different. See how this part underneath is a little bit dark? It's because of where the light is hitting it. So the light right now is currently above my desk. So the light is hitting the top here. And then the shadow is underneath. So it's hard to kind of manipulate it like this to show you. Okay, here we go. So I want you, when you're doing this, look at for shapes, but also look for a continuous line. So see this line here, this side, like that. Draw this line. Okay, so it kind of goes side and then up to a point. Okay, find one continuous line like we did here. Then I can see there would be like the bottom of the leaf here, and then it kind of comes right here and meets that line. And then right underneath, not right at the bottom, not right here, but around the middle here is kind of where you would see the end. And you're just gonna keep going until you meet that top. And then looking at the shadow again, where you're gonna put that shadow. And it gives you an idea of how to create those folded petals. I'm gonna add some watercolor in a minute just to kind of show you a bit more. But I want you to grab the shapes to start. Okay, so there's that. What about if we have another long petal like this? Kind of like a tulip one, like this. Okay, maybe you have, ooh, this is a bit more tricky. So it's already curved. Okay, it already has like it's folded like this, and then it's kind of folded back. I kind of want it like this, if you could see. Okay, so let's look for that continuous line. All right, and I'm seeing this one right here, and then we go back. All right, so let's see if I can get this. So hard to hold. It's better if you have an actual flower in front of you. Okay, let's do this. You're gonna go up, and then it's gonna kind of come back out this way. Okay, then you're gonna have, there's a shadow under here. So you can see there's kind of like this thicker part, so you can kind of create the side of this right here. And then there's the inside of the leaf there. And it kind of comes up and cuts right here like that. Because then the back of that one cuts right here. So this is where, like, this is a little bit more of a tricky situation here. It's all about the shading. So look at where the shadows are. So this part is going to be shaded, but also this part. But this part and this part are not really connected. They are connected, but right in here is going to be even more darker of a shadow because of that little fold. Okay, and it's going to be all about the shading. Okay, we're going to do watercolor with that in a second just to kind of show you. But this is how I kind of figure out folds and all that stuff. Let's look at a different one. Let's look at this leaf. Okay, so we have this flat leaf here. What if most of these leaves kind of fold in the middle like so? Okay, and I want you to arrange it however you would like. Okay, maybe it's a side view or slight side view. Okay, so look for a continuous line. Here we can just look at the bottom like that. And then you can see that there is this curve kind of going up like that. But then you can also see the inside of the other side. Look where the shadow is. It's on this side because the light is coming from here. If we were looking at it from a different way, the light might be here and there might be a shadow in there. It all depends on your light source. So that's another big thing. It's great to have something right in front of you just so you can see. Let's try and fold this. Actually, let's do this way. Okay, here's our leaf. And it's kind of folded up like this. Okay, again, we're gonna look for our continuous line, which is a little tricky with this one. I'm trying to fold it so it's making sense of how one of these leaves would fold. Let's do kind of like this. Okay, again, our continuous line to get that shape. So here's the stem, comes down and then up. And then right across here, it's going to come right across the bottom. I know it's hard to see with my finger there. And then it meets right at the top here, stem, like that. Kind of gives you an idea of how this would be folded. Okay, and then our shadow would be on this side because of the light source. But if you wanted to, maybe the shadow or the light was coming from underneath, you can put the shadow in here to create a little bit more depth. Okay. And then when you're doing the veins, you can also always draw them on your little paper here to kind of get an idea. Right? So you can see where those lines would be. The line would be kind of coming right up the middle here and up here. See that? gives you an idea. All right. And then lastly, like our petal shape. Depends on what kind of, actually for this one, a lot of petals have that curve up at the base. Okay. So you're going to see this on a flower. So say like the center of the flowers here, the petal is coming out. Actually, let's make that a little further back. So the center, like that. We have it kind of coming out like this. Imagine, look for that continuous line. So I'm looking here, a line going around and then up. So it's going to go like this. I'm trying to make sure I'm holding it so you can see, but also so I can see. This, do-doot, do-doot, like that. And then you're just going to do a little scoop at the bottom like that. And then our shading would be in here. Right in here. Also, that helps with here so you can see highlights. Having the shadow right against a highlighted area really makes those curves pop out. So let's just start adding a little bit of watercolor just so you can get a better idea of what they look like. Hopefully this is making sense. But it's really great to kind of create these props so you can see the difference. So I'm just going to grab whatever green I have here. I have an olive green. Typically what I will do is I will go over the whole thing in the same wash. So start lighter. Like that. And then let it completely dry. Depending on where the light is, if the light's on the top, you might want to lighten this part up or right down here. I'm going to do the same wash over here just so we can give it a little bit of time to dry. I'm just going to go over all of these leaves in our first light wash so then I can come back and show you guys the shading part. Okay, now that it's dry, we can go back in with our shading. So I just did a light wash over all of them with the color that we chose. Now you're going to go and basically where we added those shadows or wherever you want your shadows to be, depending on your light source, you're just going to make it like a shade darker. So I'm going to cut right in here. It's going to be the darkest right at the fold. And then I'm going to wash off my brush and kind of start to blend it out. See that? How it just creates so much more depth. And you can kind of just take the color and just continue that line just a bit. Sometimes I like to create it even a darker green right in there like that. And again, if you're adding those veins like we did over here, the veins would usually be coming right down the center. Not usually, always. So maybe there's a little bit of a curve here too, and you can just add a tiny bit of color right there. And then when this dries, I would add a little bit more right up the center. Okay, same thing with this one. Okay, here is our curved side. Now remember, this one's darker, this side is darker. So if you want, you can go over this whole area with this darker color. So it's darkest right at the fold, and then it can kind of taper off and be a little bit lighter further away. So see the darkest right there. And then I would go back in with a little bit more darker green and just kind of add that extra little bit of darkness there to show the darkness in the fold. And it really makes it come to life. Like so. Okay? Same thing with this. This is all you're going to do. And then after once like you get the hang of how, you know, if you studied leaves and flowers enough, you'll just start to see these things, and you can just do it from memory almost, or if you're creating your own, just do your own folds and how you know that leaves move. So if you don't want to sketch it out too, you could always, and you're doing like a looser piece, so let's just do one, create a leaf like this. Okay, and you know it kind of tapers off. Wait for it to completely dry, and then get your darker color and add that shadow, right? So it kind of cuts right to the tip there. And you can do that with some of your looser stuff too. It doesn't always have to be sketched out. There you go. Okay, or you can even just add some movement and shadow. Maybe there's a crease right in here, just by adding a little bit of shadow like that. Okay, so let's work on this one now. Again, depending on your light source. Usually the underside I find of leaves are a little bit lighter, so I would probably create my shadow in here, but again, depending on your light source. Like that. And the closest to the fold, I would always make a little bit darker, because you get a great contrast from the lightest part of the leaf to that shadow right there. Same thing right here. Shadow is going to be right inside this curve. Wash off my brush a bit, make it a little bit lighter here. And then add a little bit of darker green, especially right here where this curve is. Okay, and then you can always go with your darker color after and create your veins, whatever you need to, like so. And then lastly, our petals. So I find this one I use a lot, especially because when you're doing different perspectives of petals, you want a lot of movement. So usually, again, the underside of a petal that's curved up is lighter. So you want the contrast between the tip of this petal and then the shadow inside here. So I'm going to grab more of a darker wash and place it right on the inside here. And then just kind of blend it back. And I feel like that's still not deep enough. So I'm going to add a little bit more color. Maybe take a little bit of green just for a bit of, to mute it a bit. And really add that shadow color right under this curve. And then usually there's a bit of shadow right at the base where the petal is kind of connected to the center. And the petals are usually also kind of curved like this, so there might be a bit of shadow kind of coming down the center. Okay, and then this is pretty light. I would wait for this to completely dry. And instead of leaving this as like a flat kind of wash right here, I would even do a tiny little gradient of a shadow down at the base here, leaving the tip as light as possible. So just kind of wetting that up there and then just adding a bit more shadow down here. You can even do like little lines or something. Like that. Okay, so that helps when you're doing those curved kind of petals, but it looks pretty realistic and just gives your work so much more movement. Again, if you're doing something loose where you're not sketching it out first, you can always have your petals, let's see. I have done a video on perspective. So let's say there's a loose flower petal here, petal here. You'll notice if you look at a reference photo, petals that are curved around the side, you're going to get a little bit of that kind of lip right there. And then the ones that are down here is where you see those curved kind of petals. This is very loose. Okay, I would wait for it to dry if you can, or I would grab your darker color just while it's still wet, especially around the center here. Darken it. Then let it dry. Then show some of those curves by just darkening the inside, right? So you can create that kind of curve like that. Same thing over here. Just subtle. Maybe some of these sides are curved. You're just creating a shadow. That's like a curved side there. Obviously, this is done really fast and not too detailed or anything like that. Just adding those shadows. Like that. You can even add shadows and curves in flatter petals, because those petals, remember, even like this, they're going to have some sort of curve. So when you do that, you see a little bit of shadow down the center too. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful and you learned a little bit of something about creating those curved petals and leaves. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and happy painting. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.